I never received a no when I asked another business for something. And obviously, I'm prefacing that with, here's what we're doing. We'd love to have you guys in when we're open. But I would ask businesses like, hey, can I come set up a table this weekend? Or, hey, I know you're having a 1-year anniversary. Can I set up a table? I'm not going to harass your customers. Don't worry. This is like what I'm going to do. I'll bring some nice swag. It'll be fun. And I never received a no.
Mike Jewett, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Rick. How are you?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you jumping on today. What's the weather like up there in the, I'd say DC area, but I don't know. Are you close to DC? Are you really close?
Yeah, we are. We're about 20 miles northwest of DC. So yeah, it's nice. Finally. It was raining. I think we were getting the outskirts of the hurricane. Still, weather had not been great, but yeah, it's a beautiful day today.
Awesome. Well, I mean, you know how this works. Did you bring a dad joke or not?
I did. I got one. I can't promise that's good, but I'll give it a shot.
The worse, the better. So let's have it.
All right. So last night I dreamt that my spirit rose out of the toilet. Yeah, it was definitely an out-of-body experience.
That's terrible. That's perfect. Yeah. Oh, all right. I have one. It's just so bad. Okay. What did the river say? What did the river say when it saw beavers approaching?
I have no idea.
Well, I'll be damned. Come on. Oh, well, look, man, all kidding aside, like I just saw you for an entire week and then you were here for a conference. So I've seen your smiling face for a while and we kind of missed, my fault for shooting it live. But I wanted to have you on because you're unique in some ways. And the ways that you're unique is that you showed up to training, which for anybody listening that isn't in the franchise system, it's basically when you're getting ready to open, there's sort of construction triggers that are going on. And those triggers trigger business functions, whether it be hiring or whatever. One of those things is, and it's critical, come to training, which normally lasts a full week. And then when you get back, your pre-sale starts. But you were motivated, I should say. And you're kind of one of those guys that you're a hard worker. Obviously, you're a jiu-jitsu practitioner. So anybody that takes 15 years to get a black belt or longer, if you were me trying, then you can grind. So you can work hard. But you showed up to training with leads already in the coffer and quite a few. And so I was super impressed. So that's what I want to get to. But I think more interestingly for our listeners for now, is, what is your background? How did you get to Alloy?
Yeah. So, most of my career, I guess the last 26 years or so, I've been in tech and I've worked for a variety of different companies. Big companies like IBM. I've worked for startups. I had my own software business for about 6 years. So I've kind of done a lot of things. I would say about 6 years ago or so, I knew that I didn't want to spend the rest of my career in tech. And, having done some entrepreneurial things in the past, I knew I wanted to get back to that, but I also knew that I didn't want to start anything from absolute scratch like I had done before. And franchising was obviously the perfect, option for that. I didn't know a lot about franchising at the time. So, I worked with the consultant. We looked at some various things and found Alloy. And that was just perfect because, I'm lifelong kind of fitness, played every sport growing up. It's a big part of my life. And so finding, I know people say sometimes, you don't have to follow like your passion in franchising, but hey, for me, like if you can make it work, like all the better. It's just icing on the cake. So, found Alloy and, started working with you and the team, and just started talking to you through the sales process. And it was just like every meeting I got more excited. So yeah. By the time I got down to confirmation day, I already knew I was going to sign.
So. You just wrote us a check. You're like, I'm ready. Well, and I think, what you said is interesting because a lot of people do feel it's not a great idea to chase your passion if you can't monetize it. But I think when we approach franchising as an example, you start with, can people get return on investment? If you can't answer that question, honestly, you don't go to franchising because like everything else, doesn't matter how much passion you have to, there's a financial formula here that has to work. So if you can get return on investment and you can follow your passions, it doesn't get much better than that. So I'm really proud of you for taking that leap. It's hard for people, if you've been employed for years and years, it can be terrifying even if you're a resilient person, even if you've held C-suite level positions, moving into an entrepreneurial role where you live and die by your decisions can be terrifying for some. To your point, though, franchising does mitigate a lot of that risk. Just percentage-wise, if you look at the percentage of franchises that make it versus, Mike's Gym as an example, it's just exponentially, easier if you're in a franchise structure. So we sign up, and the process. We go, we look at real estate, in and out. Actually, you found a really interesting a piece of real estate as an old bank, and I love the picture of you standing in behind the vault bars. I don't know what we're going to do with that. I mean, I can imagine. We have 65 plus open right now, so we're moving, right, and we've yet to run into any space that has a vault in it. We probably won't again, but I thought it was really creative. You and I have to noodle on something cool to come up with there, like client of the month gets put in the vault or something. I don't know, but we'll come up with something kind of fun. But anyway, super unique space. And then you come to training. Now you show up to training, as I mentioned earlier, with leads already. So let's just start with, your mindset on, how did you produce those leads? Why did you think it was important? And I'd just like to have a discussion around that, because again, I think it's uncommon from what we've seen. We'd like to see it more. So I think your mindset and your thoughts around it would be very helpful for anybody in the system.
Sure. So I'll rewind back to really right when I got back home after confirmation day. Super excited, knew I was going to sign. I think I had the meeting scheduled with you and Suzanne and the crew like a few days later to make it official. And, at that point, like, excitement is at an extremely high level. I'm just ready to go. Unfortunately, what happens at that point is like you're looking at this long timeline to even get to pre-sale. You have all kinds of administrative work, which is necessary but not fun. If you're doing SBA or ROBS or whatever it may be, getting your licenses, there's all kinds of stuff to do. And it's just kind of like it takes the wind out of your sails a little bit. You're like, I want to get started on the business that I'm investing in. All this admin stuff is a drag. And so I was looking for ways to like, okay, I have to do this. I'm going to do this, but like, how can I actually like get started on what I feel like I invested in? And so that's what it was kind of born out of, almost like an impatience, I would say, just for me to, wanting to get started. And so it started there. But even then, I really wasn't exactly sure what to do other than just like going out and saying like, hey, I'm starting this thing. It's called Alloy. It's part of a national brand. It's awesome. Here's what it's about. I got a lot of help from my fellow owners in my DMV area, so the kind of the DC area. So
you've got some good partners up there. You really do.
Yeah, Russ, Kevin, Rhonda, Angela,
Kevin, yeah,
they were all so instrumental. They gave me so much good information and advice early on. Like, can't thank them enough. And a lot of the ideas that I had, like going into some of the organic stuff in the what I call like the pre-sale, was kind of born out of conversations with them.
Yeah, I mean, I love it, and I think you're right. I think a lot of people, they discount you're peaking, right? Like, you have made this decision. Obviously you go through the decision making process. It's like you mitigating risk. Am I going to do it? And you're finally like, I'm all in. And then there's just a lot of things that have to be done, and they're not the fun parts. You're not meeting with clients yet. You're looking at real estate, you're negotiating leases and doing all these things. And I'm sure you've experienced this. It's like a flurry of activity sometimes, and it's quiet for a while. Maybe you're sitting on a couple of like LOIs with landlords, and they might be slow to respond, or you're waiting for permitting, or whatever those things are. So it can be a bit of a letdown from the high, because you can't just get started, right? It just doesn't work that way. There's things to be done. So I know what you're saying, and I'm glad that you took that energy and said, okay, I need to start doing something, even if it's just talking about what I'm going to be doing. So I think a lot of people would say, and I appreciate this, follow the process, but maybe mistakenly thinking that process involves like, I shouldn't be doing anything until I'm told to do it. When in fact, going out and like, standing on a soapbox and talking about this amazing thing that's coming to your area, absolutely nothing wrong with that. And it's a way for you to keep your excitement, right? And I'm sure you experience this when you do express and talk to other people about it, they are also excited, and they might just be reflecting your excitement, but then that makes you more excited, right? So it makes you double down on your conviction to get out there and keep doing it. So tell me a little bit about, we know why you did it, right? What did you do exactly? And it could be really basic. So don't think it has to
Yeah.
be just what'd you do?
Yeah. So I think literally the first thing I did was I just got in the gear store and I ordered some t-shirts. And so,
Smart.
yeah, I ordered a few t-shirts and I wore them every day. Like every time I'd go out, if I wasn't wearing that shirt to begin with, if I was going out to the grocery store to get a coffee or whatever, I would just put the shirt on. Just good, if somebody asked me like, hey, what's that? And then I would instantly, engage with them. Um, Funny how like when you wear a nice looking shirt, I think nice looking logo brand says something kind of interesting on it, people will ask you about it. Especially I was I was getting my teeth cleaned one day. I was wearing the shirt and they just asked me about it and I couldn't talk like at the time, so I was like, I took the thing out of his mouth and I started telling him, and she actually, my hygienist, became a lead, so that was pretty cool. But
Yeah, well, dude, I'm telling you, I love this, and I'm just, listen, I'll probably say this 10 times during this conversation, but I just love it. It's really that simple. Like, if you're proud of what you're doing and you want to help people, and you're wearing your branded gear, which is why we have it, by the way. And you're right, like the logo's clean, it's different. It goes a long way. I mean, if you're a nice person and you can hold a decent conversation with people, which you should be if you're going to be in a people-facing business, right? Then just having the brand on when you're out and about can bring up a million and one conversations. And to your point, it's an opportunity to help someone, but it's also a lead, which could turn into business for your business, right? So,
yep.
all right, so you're getting your teeth clean. Give me some other examples. You
Yeah,
mentioned one where you're at like a muffin shop or something, picking up some
yeah,
stuff for
I
your
was at a
girls, or
it was a Nothing Bundt Cakes. It's another franchise brand, and the guy behind the counter, little overweight. I think probably looking for some kind of solution to improve his health. And he just had, says I had a shirt that's the Alloy Personal Training, like the full black logo on front. And he was just like, "Oh, are you a personal trainer?" I was like, "Yeah, in fact, I'm opening a gym. I'll be open in a few months." And yeah, just started asking me about it. He became a lead. So yeah, I was kind of surprised like how many conversations were just born out of just kind of repping the brand. So that was really cool. I think when we started to pour some kind of gas on the fire was when I joined the chamber. So I joined a local chamber, and I honestly don't know if I'm lucky here. I don't know if every chamber is like this. My chamber is extremely active and like and just good. Like they're all of like they're very any kind of introduction you need, anything you need, you just like the president will email you back in, I don't know, like 15 minutes. Is crazy. And so I joined the chamber and I just started going to every event, whether it was like a networking, cocktails and commerce, they call it here, or, grand openings, anniversary celebrations. I would just go wear my alloy stuff, introduce myself, start having conversations with people. And that really kind of started to get the ball rolling, and started to get more and more leads that way. Um, and so that, yeah, the chamber was a huge thing. I would say also, I think around the time I joined the chamber, I did I brought on my first kind of part-time employee. So I thought it was a little early to bring on a full-time employee. Obviously, you have to, be aware of like the cost of that. But, part-time, you have control over it. You can, work when you need them to, and you're not paying them when they don't. This guy, Matt, so he's also, he's a guy I knew from jiu-jitsu. Actually, he's a friend. Also, has a great strength and training background. And so he just started doing events with me. So we would go to these things together, which I would say for organic stuff, it's, you can definitely do them by yourself. And I did plenty of them, but it's a lot more fun when you go with somebody and you can kind of like team up and then you go disperse and like kind of each like, do a little network and then you come back, maybe strategize a little bit. And then, so it's, it's always more fun with a small team, I'd say.
anything else more specific? Like, I know the chamber was obviously a deliberate. The other ones are just happenstance, right? But I think being open to those is really important. It's sort of like, when they talk about kids, and I know you have teenage girls, and so like there's so many opportunities if you're just driving your kids to school. Like, you don't have to set aside a dedicated time to just have a conversation about something. It's probably coming up on the way home from school or a practice or an event or something, and just something comes up, and it's an opportunity to express, hey, well, how'd you feel about that? Well, what do you think about it? Or maybe something going on in the world. And it's just a way to sort of coach your kids, but you just don't know when those things are going to pop up. I think it's similar in a pre-sale. It's like if you're out and about with your gear on, you may be in a hurry, or you may be, again, you're buying bun cakes of all things, and like the person behind the counter. I think personal training is interesting to people because it is by definition personal, and everybody likes to talk about themselves and what they've been through or what they're going through or what they want to achieve physically, whether it's training for a 5K or, like you, if I ran into you and you weren't an alloy guy, maybe you talk about jujitsu, or maybe this guy at the place wants to lose weight, or I don't know. People really like to talk about their fitness, because it is so personal. So I think the just out and about organic with a shirt, really important. The chamber was a specific plan, right, for networking. Is there anything else you did that was more deliberate like that?
Yeah, there's a few things. So I guess along about the same time I joined the chamber, I was going around and meeting the businesses in our, like, we call it a town center here. It's basically like, I think you have them where you are too. It's just like a planned community, mixed residential and commercial. And so a lot of businesses there. And I was just, going to each business. And, at first to be honest, I was a little like, okay, well, how am I going to kind of grease the skids here and like introduce myself? So I would go into like a store and I would buy something just to like talk to the owner. I quickly realized that wasn't necessary, but I'm just saying, like, at first my mindset was like, okay, I'm just trying to like ease into this. But I remember, so I would go a good example is like I went into a new pet store that had opened up a couple doors down from me. So, not necessarily anything directly related to personal training, but they're a neighbor. Ended up buying some treats for my dog Penny, and just talking to the owner. And then I got home and I was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to post this on my Alloy Instagram account. So I did that. It was like I kind of tied it to Alloy. It was just like, I think I said something about walking my dog is like good, like off day exercise. But, I posted, the picture was of Penny with her treats. So whatever. But I tagged them, and then they like reposted it to theirs because I tagged them. So like, and I started doing that more and more because I just got more exposure on socials. So that was another thing I did early on. You don't need a gym to post on social. There's a lot of great content that you all provide from HQ. I started working with Jay Croft, actually, with Prime Fit, who, that was a great recommendation from Nick Garrity. And so I had plenty of content I could post, so that wasn't an issue at all. So I tried to post every day on Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, I was also developing kind of a hit list of businesses that I really thought would be good partners, like good, partners that we could do joint ventures with, marketing campaigns. And so I developed the list. I got to know some of them myself, and the ones that I was having trouble getting a callback from, I just started to ask the chamber. So I was like, I asked the president, I was like, hey, I'd really like to get to know this pickleball club. Having trouble getting in touch with the right person. Within an hour, I had a warm introduction to like their director of marketing and community. And that has become one of probably our most strongest partnership to date. Like, we do all kinds of stuff with them now. So that was huge too. So I would say, like, develop that list. Try to try to get the introductions yourself. If you can't do that, ask your chamber, or ask, if you don't have a good chamber, there's probably some other way to get to know. It doesn't have to be the owner even. It can be the GM. Sometimes the GM is even a better person to get to know than the owner, because they're the ones that are, there every day calling the shots. So.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting how there's the blending of the chamber with the organic, right? So once you can conceptualize how all these things tie together, I think, what I have heard is maybe a barrier in the past is what you experienced. Like, I can't get a hold of the person, right? But you take a guy like you who's like, oh, well, that's no big deal because I'm part of this great chamber. So you figure out a workaround. You got to go, oh, I'll ask the chamber, and then they connect you to the decision maker, and now you're in, right? So just because you walk in and the owner's not there or the manager's not there, which will happen sometimes, it doesn't mean you just give up on them. You blanket your own little sort of shopping area, and you're like, this doesn't work. It's like, you can't do that, right? You just have to zoom out a bit and, again, understand how all these moving parts work together. And I think, when we talk about organic marketing, it's so important for keeping the funnel full long term. As you know, at Alloy, one of our strong suits is like, our retention's really good. We don't churn out a lot of people. So like, you get stable down the road. It usually takes, I don't know, 6 months. Some people open full. I get it. But like, let's just say normally it takes 3 to 6 months to get stable. Once you find your tribe and your attrition is low, right? Your retention's high. Then it's like, well, that type of marketing is free, by the way. Now I know your time is money, but like, who doesn't like going out and talking about the thing and trying to help people? Um, so I think it's more important, even like you did it pre. We love it. That's what we're encouraging everyone to do while we're on this call. But I really think it's important down the road because you're sowing seeds for future relationships. And we've always said, we know our customer avatar so well, Mike. I mean, you knew you can. So we sat down with you, talked about it for 5 minutes. You go, I got it. I know what you guys do. Probably be for me if I live there. And like, same for me, right? And we know what speaks to our customer. We just don't know when, right? Like if you could put the perfect sort of advertisement, if you will, lack of better terms, to the perfect person, but if it's not the right time for them, they're not going to bite. So part of this community-based marketing is just top of mind. Like if that person who, that they go hiking with the family and they can't keep up and they're just like so deflated and they're like, you know what? They're just tired of it. And it's like, I'm going to change this, right? Or they get some gloomy news from the doctor, like you need to get yourself together, right? It's like, okay. And they're going to think like, all right, what do I do? And it's like, oh, I met this really nice guy at the sandwich shop. What's the name of that place? Maybe you gave him a card or maybe you touch base, you send them an email and they go back and look it up and you're that person. That's the long-term, positive side of this type of marketing. But I think a lot of people have a head trash around it. So what would you say to someone who just doesn't want to go out and talk to people because they feel like and I'm air quoting if you're not watching, if it's straight audio, they feel like they're bothering people. Like, what would you say to that person? Because you never had that, right? So what would you say to someone who's like, I would like to go talk to people in my community. I just don't want to bother them.
Yeah. So I'll say that I've asked, even without a location, even before we even started construction, I never received a no when I asked another business for something. And obviously, like I'm prefacing that with like, here's what we're doing. We'd love to have you guys in when we're open. We'll invite you to our grand opening. Like I'm giving them kind of the vision to look ahead. But I would ask businesses like, hey, can I come set up a table this weekend? Or hey, I know you're having a 1 year anniversary. Can I set up a table? I'm not gonna harass your customers. Don't worry. This is like what I'm gonna do. I'll bring some nice swag. It'll be fun. And I never received a no. So to somebody thinking like they're bothering somebody, I would just say try it and you'll find out very quickly that you're not. Like everybody who works at another small business or owns a small business gets it. And if you give them the kind of the vision of what you're building, which is like, I mean, Alloy, like our demographic is a very valuable demographic and it's something unique and new to the market. So if you can really explain that well to another business, they're going to see the value and they're going to say, great, I get it. You're not open now. 3 months. I take you at your word. Like I'd love to go to your gym too. And I'll follow every one of those businesses and follow through on my word. And, we'll have them at our grand opening and we'll do events with them and it'll be, but you just got to make them kind of believe. And if you're a multi-unit owner, like I know a lot of, Alloy franchisees are, leverage that too, saying like, hey, I'm not just building one of these, I'm building multiple throughout the area, throughout my county or throughout my region, whatever it may be. Give them the vision, like sell them on like what you're building is big and because they're going to want to be a part of that if they believe you. So
Did you ever have any head trash? Did you ever feel like, ooh, I don't want to bother these people? Or is that something that never crossed your mind?
no, it definitely crossed my mind. I mean, I think that's why at first I would, like I would go into a store and before I would talk to the GM, I'd feel like I'd have to buy something like buy a product. Or in one case, I went into a stretch zone, and before I talked to the GM, I just signed up for some stretches. I was like, just I quickly learned that wasn't even necessary, and I was just
Right.
spending money
But to
unnecessary.
your credit, again, I'm saying that because there's someone listening and they're like, well, Mike's more extroverted than me. And you're not, you're a pretty soft spoken guy. It's like you're very intelligent, but you're also intelligent enough to know, like, okay, like, all right, you're going to work, right? You're going to put the work in. But I think it would be good for people to hear. And of course, I didn't know till I asked you that you also at one point thought, like, ooh, and then your workaround was like, I'll just buy their thing and then they have to talk to me,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Which I think is great. And I might feel the same way at first, but it's interesting that through that, you realize you really don't have to do it. So I just want people to hear, like, even someone who makes it sound so easy to get out and collaborate with other businesses, that you two had some, hesitation about doing it, right?
Yeah, I did for sure. Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
but
Well,
again, like I was very pleasantly surprised that I never really hit any kind of resistance. And yeah, I think to your point, I don't want people to know that I am not a natural like extrovert. I don't necessarily enjoy networking and those things. I think I can turn it on when I need to, but I'm naturally, a little more introverted. And so it's not easy, but it gets easier. Obviously, like anything, when you rep it and you drill it, it does get easier. But when you start getting the positive responses, you just get more and more confidence. And I would say like something unique about Alloy versus, maybe, other, throughout my career, when I would network for, different tech jobs I was at, it's not necessarily the most interesting thing, like those types of jobs. And so when you're networking, it's hard to fake excitement about something that is not. But like we're in fitness, we're in health, like this is exciting to me. Or at least it comes a lot more naturally to get excited about this than it would be like for other jobs I've had. And that in itself makes it a lot easier as well because people can, I think they can pick that up in the way you speak.
yeah, well, I'm really glad that we touched on that. So it's not your natural, proclivity to go out and be extroverted, but you did it, and then as you saw all the head trash, the resistance that you thought would be there wasn't there, that increased your self-efficacy, and then you keep going and you get more yeses, and that builds and builds. So I think that's it. You just got to get out there and do it, right? um, well, how many leads did you have when you came to training? So you hadn't had any training yet, you've just been doing your own marketing. How many leads did you have?
Yeah, so we came to training with a little over 300 leads, and I think we had 24 starting point sessions booked prior to training. That's one of the things I think we could have done a few things better, which I can get to, but yeah, that's what we came into training with. I didn't know if that was, good or not. We were just we set a goal of 300 kind of based on, we started, not to take a tangent, but we started using EOS kind of along the way and just using it to set targets. And because I did like along the way as we're doing our pre-sale, I hired my director, David. We hired another part-timer, Carol. And so we had a team formed and everybody was kind of working on organic together. And so we developed targets, used EOS to kind of align on those and keep making progress. So we landed on 300 as our target. I think we broke that by about 20 or so. But yeah, that's just the target that kind of we came up with. I do want to say like a couple other tactics that might be helpful for people, not to or just to go back to your couple questions ago. So once we hired David, our director, he really like ramped us up to top speed. I feel like with he started doing pop-up workouts, which were huge, workouts and warm-ups that he would do. We would do to other locations. Again, we didn't have a club at this point, so we had to rely on other spaces to do it. And the kind of the golden goose for us in all of organic is it's the stupidest one. It's the simplest one. But we would after we had our lease signed, we just started setting up our table with the kind of the alloy apron and our swag. We just set it up outside the space, and we get a lot of foot traffic in that area. We've gotten so many leads. I think we're in our second week of pre-sale now. I think we've closed. I think 15 of the members we've signed already have come from just people walking by and talking to us at our table. It's like how easy can you
Yeah.
get? It's like
Well, I mean, listen, and for people listening that aren't familiar with our model, 130 members is a great model. So if you come to training and you haven't, like, and again, I'm air quoting, officially started, right, and you already have 330 leads and you open and you've got 15 people signed up, or whatever that percentage was. Yeah, man, amazing. And I'm sure would dig into this forever because it's so nuanced. But really, what I want people to hear is it's possible. You don't have to wait. You just have to understand what kind of power you have and how interested people are in what it is that we do. And you've got to set aside any head trash you have and just get out in the community and market, right? And you're a guy that's full. You have a full-time job. You've got a family, and you still got out there and did it. It wasn't like it's impossible. We've talked to people like, well, yeah, I have another job. It's like, yes, but like ultimately, wouldn't you like to just do this as your job, right? So well, let's just talk about, we'll wrap it up. But what's the future for Mike Jewett and Alloy? And how many locations do you currently have, and what's your long-term vision?
Yeah, so we signed up for three initially. We're again in our second week of pre-sale in our first location. We have an LOI out for our second, which is looking pretty good. And beyond that, I would like to go beyond three for sure. I love this business. I think there's still white space in my area. I don't know. Nobody take that. But,
We'll
yeah, I
edit
mean,
that out.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I love this. I mean, I was telling you right before we started broadcasting that I just finished an alloy session myself. I feel great. Like if I wasn't an owner, I would be joining the alloy in my neighborhood for sure. So it's something that, I can sell with full authenticity because it's, again, I love it myself. So, and yeah, I think beyond that, the great thing about going kind of hard into organic marketing is it helps you build your reputation in your community, which is a platform for launching other businesses, which is something that I plan to do as well. If you have a good reputation and you all know all the businesses, they all know, oh yeah, like Mike, he's a great guy to work with. I mean, name a business that you couldn't get up off the ground. It's like you could do a lot of things beyond alloy. And so I look at that kind of longer term as well. I just always want to have that as my ground game. I know you're a Cowboys fan, aren't you?
Yeah, it's hard to be, but yeah, I try.
If I was going to make an Emmitt Smith analogy, it's like back in the day. It's like
Oh,
you
I
can
like him.
rely
Yeah,
on,
that was when it was fun to be a Cowboys fan.
yeah, like you can always rely on him for like 7 yards of carry or 6 yards of carry, and then when you need to throw that bomb and dial up paid spend and buy Zuck another Doomsday Island, like you can do that. But Zuck doesn't need my money. So
Yeah.
I would rather just kind of build it myself and not rely on throwing those bombs all the time.
Well, listen, man, I love it. You're a stud. Like, obviously we're pushing to have everyone think the way that you do. Get out there, block, tackle, block, tackle. It doesn't take a ton of members to make one of these things really hum. And you could do a lot of healthy damage, if you will, right, by just getting out and doing your organic marketing. So props to you because you did it on your own. We preach it, but it doesn't always happen. We'd love to see it happen more. So appreciate you sharing, man. I look forward to you getting three open, maybe more. And yeah, to your point, you're stacking entrepreneurial skills that will allow you to cross over and do whatever you want to do. And a lot of our alloy franchisees are the same way. They're like, hey, I'd like to get a chunk of these going. And then, as I learn to be an entrepreneur, maybe there's some other things I can do. I'm like, yeah, man, 100%. Like, I'm a huge fan of entrepreneurship. I think it's great. And this is franchise is a great way to cut your teeth on that as well, because it mitigates some of your risk. Obviously you run EOS, which I'm a big fan of, which if you're going to be an entrepreneur, keeps you organized. So yeah, man, I'm a fan. I look forward to seeing you finish Presale strong, get your other ones open. And yeah, thanks for being a great advocate of alloy and leading from the front, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it.
Of course. All right, guys. Well, Mike Jewett, he's a stud. I don't know what else to say. Be like Mike. How about that? I think it's a commercial. All right. Cheers.